Then out spake brave Horatius, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth, death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better than facing fearful odds for the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods?
Marisol found the strength to raise her head and look around. She was not in Stockholm anymore. She could tell just by the warmth in the air. Marisol and Malum had emerged into a picturesque courtyard located within a Southeast Asian-style mountainside monastery. The building itself appeared to be constructed at the very summit of said mountain because there was nothing but clear blue sky in all directions when Marisol looked up. Realizing her plan had worked, Marisol let out a triumphant yell. They were inside the world of the hastily written short story Marisol had come up with during the plane ride. Ignoring her pain and agony, she forced herself to stand. Nearby, Malum was also doing the same. "What? What have you done? Where are we?" Malum demanded. He pointed one finger at Marisol, preparing to hit her with a psionic blast. Knowing she was safe, Marisol made no attempt to dodge or evade. She remained stock still and glared at Malum. The jet of psionic energy fizzled out the moment it left Malum's hand. Someone had countered Malum's attack. "I will have no violence today," a booming voice declared. A very tall man approached. He was dressed in gleaming silver armor, adorned with many colorful gemstones. A pair of feathery wings extended from his back. The winged man spoke again. "Today is meant to be a day of celebration. I'll have none of this. I will clean you both, and then you will behave yourselves." Marisol felt a most wonderful sensation as her injuries were magically mended. The blood and grime washed cleanly away from her body, and her stamina returned. It felt like taking a refreshing shower and a power nap at the same time. Malum was looking far less relaxed. "Where are we?" he demanded. "What have you done to me, Creator?" Marisol laughed as she knelt down to pick up the reality perforator. Now that she had her strength back, it did not feel as overwhelmingly heavy as it did earlier. "You are in my world now," Marisol said. "I'm the creator around here, and I'm the god you have to worry about pissing off." Malum looked from Marisol to the winged man, trying to take in just what was going on. "This," Marisol said, gesturing around her, "is one of my stories. And with Blake's permission, you're here as a guest star, Malum. Congratulations." Marisol leaned over to one side, peering at something going on behind Malum. "And it looks like we're just in time for the big event. Let's go. Dream Guardian, if you could lead the way for us." "Of course, my good lady," the winged man said. He gestured for Marisol and Malum to follow. Malum did so very reluctantly. He was starting to become more and more aware of his surroundings. Marisol felt a glowing sense of pride as she admired her own handiwork. It was not the first time Marisol had written a short story in a time crunch, but the world she created during the plane ride had come together seamlessly. Mount Celestia was a magical domain inhabited by a pantheon of gods, spirits, and other fantastical people who styled themselves as guardians over the mundane world below. Malum seemed to have figured out that he was surrounded by dozens, if not hundreds of deities who could overpower him in a fight, and he was looking increasingly concerned about this development. The Dream Guardian brought Marisol and Malum to a grand archway built into the outer walls of the monastery. Here, dozens of gods and goddesses were throwing a raucous party. Enchanted music filled the deepest pits of the soul with joy and hope, while food and drink of impossibly divine descriptions were shared with all. In the middle of this grand festival, 3 people stood atop a podium. Marisol pointed at a bald man in the center, dressed in orange robes and carrying a wooden staff. "There he is, the king of the gods," Marisol said. "Quite right," replied the Dream Guardian. "He'll speak to you when he is finished." "So, this is your plan," Malum said. "Drag me into a world built specifically for my own slaughter?" "I'm not the same type of writer as Blake," Marisol said. "Plus, I know how powerful you are. You might be able to kill me before any of these gods can stop you, but then your life would be cut so very short." Marisol's words were dripping with venom. She held the reality perforator behind her back with both hands, knowing that should Malum attempt violence, her reflexes would be the difference between life and death. If the plan went sideways, Marisol would remove herself from this world, leaving Malum to face the wrath of an angry pantheon. But that would be her last resort. "If you have not brought me here to kill me, then why?" Marisol pointed to the podium where the king of the gods was speaking. "Because in a few minutes, this world is going to need you." The king of the gods raised his hand, calling for silence. "For as long as I have reigned, my friend here has been the guiding hand behind the powers of imagination, the force of Genesis, the father of brain children, and master of the creative mind. To have you here upon this mount with me has been the greatest pleasure and privilege." The assembled deities applauded, while both of the people standing next to the King of Gods looked abashed. One of them, a man, had the same heavenly appearance as the other gods. His companion, a woman, appeared to be mundane and powerless. She was no god or spirit, just a layperson from the world below. "Now, the god of ink has discovered a force, a power that may well rival his own. Love," the king said. Then he glared at one specific deity in the crowd. "I trust you had nothing to do with this." "No, sir, never," the goddess of love replied with a giggle. "But I wish I did." The king of the gods smiled and let out a jovial laugh. He turned to the 2 people on stage with himself. "The 2 of you are about to embark on a most magnificent journey. Of that I have no doubt," he said. "But one last time, I must warn my old friend. To leave Mount Celestia in the hands of a mortal is to surrender your divinity. I cannot allow you to return, my friend. Is this what you truly want?" The god of ink embraced his new bride, who squeezed him tightly in return. "I would give up everything for her," the god of ink declared. "Everything." Marisol sniffed. She felt tears in her eyes, but resisted the urge to wipe them away, keeping both hands on the reality perforator. The god king gave his blessing, and the happy couple said their final goodbyes to the world of the gods. The mortal woman seemed overwhelmed by the sheer number of gifts the deities pressed on her. By the time the crowd withdrew, she was adorned with so many pieces of jewelry and dressed in such fine clothes that she looked like the empress of the world. The magical auras radiating off these gifts coalesced into a gentle golden halo around her. Finally, the god of ink and his bride stepped through the archway together and vanished from sight. They had departed Mount Celestia for the final time. The party resumed, the inhabitants of the divine realm expressing joy about getting to witness such a happy event. Marisol and Malum were escorted through the crowd until they came face to face with the King of the Gods. He looked down at Marisol and grinned. "Marisol Reyes, the creator, you've brought me a new god of ink." Malum startled. Marisol suppressed the urge to cackle. Instead, she turned to face her foe. "Cat's out of the bag, Malum. So here's where we stand." Malum glared at Marisol, his eyes wide and full of rage. "I knew that Blake's characters would never have beaten you in a straight fight. We'd have to get creative. And this is my answer." Feeling brave, Marisol took a step toward Malum. "I made this world just for you, Malum. I made it because I can give you a choice." "What possible choice could you offer me?" Malum said. "Like I said, you're in my world now. This place can be your prison. Or you can make it something else." Marisol leaned over to one of the nearby tables, took one hand off the reality perforator, and picked up an eagle feather quill. "I'm giving you the chance to stay in this world as the patron god of creatives. Become the new god of ink. Become a creator yourself." She offered the quill to Malum. "Why conquer a multiverse when you can build one of your own? When you could guide the hands of the creative souls in the world below? This is your chance to start over, Malum. Leave your grudge against Blake behind. Stay here." "Blake is my creator," Malum seethed. "So am I," Marisol replied. "And right now, I've got all the power. And I'm showing you mercy." Marisol pointed the quill at the world around her. "You'll be among people like yourself, wielders of great power, ruling over the world at the bottom of this mountain. You can stay here as their brother and neighbor, and use your powers to become the greatest creator this world has ever known." For the first time, Marisol noticed the faintest trace of hesitation in Malum's expression. He was tempted. "You would give me such power?" he asked. "I would." "And Robinson?" "He gave me permission to use your character in this story," Marisol said. "So right now, I am the only creator influencing your story." Malum looked around. "A gilded cage," he said. "You are a creator equal to Robinson." "Thank you," Marisol said. I've written a few match made in Stockholm and captive date stories before. I know what I'm doing." Malum was now eyeing the quill in Marisol's free hand. She was close. "You're right about this whole setup being a prison. But it's a prison of your own making, just like Jericho and her Crystal Palace. Going back from this point isn't an option anymore. But what happens next is all up to you." Marisol took another step toward Malum. "In the world you came from, there are almost no creators. It's just the way Blake writes. But my stories are different. This world is full of creators and those who have the potential to become creators. They just need a hand to guide them." Malum was no longer hiding the fact that he was staring at the quill. "I have never written anything, let alone a story," Malum said. "That's okay," Marisol said. "That's how all creators start their journey. The only way to reach Blake's level, my level, is to write. Keep writing. Share your stories with other creators and keep writing. Once you've got the hang of creation, you won't want to stop. That's why Blake didn't quit after finishing his magnum opus, and that's why I'm giving you the chance to start." There was a final tense moment. Marisol could see the intense thoughts passing through Malum's mind. His eyes flickered like candlelight. Then Malum reached out and took the quill from Marisol. He startled as the king of the gods began to applaud. "Welcome to our domain, Malum Ralpakin, god of ink," the god king declared. A wise choice, Marisol said. Welcome to your new home, Malum. Try the food. I borrowed some narration from C.S. Lewis to make it delicious beyond all possible description. Putting both hands on the reality perforator, Marisol started to back away. The king of the gods placed one hand on Malum's shoulder and greeted him jovially. Marisol noticed the normally hard and aggressive expression on Malum's face soften a little. Once Marisol was on the outer edge of the party, she raised her voice and called out, "Malum, one last thing." Malum and the God King turned to face her. "I don't mince my words," Marisol said. "When I say these people are gods, I mean it. They are omniscient. If they find out you're thinking of coming back to the real world..." At once, the whole place changed. The sunlight became dark and cold. The platters of delicious food rotted into festering slop. Every god, spirit, and lesser deity turned on the spot to stare at Malum with glowing red eyes. Marisol felt a deep satisfaction when she saw the look of fear on Malum's face. If I were you, I'd focus on having fun. Exercise that creative muscle in your brain. Very slowly, the color and light came back into the world. The food and drink transformed back into its divine quality, and the gods resumed their party. Malum stared past all of them at Marisol. At long last, he fully appreciated just how completely he was trapped. "Goodbye, Malum Ralpakin," Marisol said. She squeezed the reality perforator as hard as she could, digging her fingernails into the membrane until they touched the inner core. Marisol was ejected forcefully from the broken gate. She landed so hard on the rocky terrain of Rothelman Island that her glasses snapped in half. She was so focused on that problem that she did not notice the thundering noise of a helicopter for a moment. "Marisol!" someone yelled. Then, Marisol found herself in a furry embrace. Sebakura was cradling Marisol as though she was a kitten. Varian Robinson was standing next to her. "Where is he? Where's Malum?" Varian asked. "Inside my story," Marisol said. "It worked! He's trapped in my story!" She felt the tension go out of Sebakura's muscles. Varian let out a gasp, a hopeful gleam in his or her eyes. "So, it's over?" "Yeah, it's over," Marisol replied. "We won."
Then eternity shall greet us with an individual kiss, and joy shall overtake us. Everything that is good and divine, truth and peace and love will shine. For every man upon this earth, death cometh soon or late. And happy man die better than facing fearful odds. For the ashes of his fathers and the temples of his gods, attired with stars, 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 we shall forever sit, triumph over death, triumph over chance, and you, time.